The cases recorded in Namibia have all been classified as sporadic. The incidence curve flattened at 16 cases, with 8 recoveries. I wish the remaining 8 people a speedy recovery. We are thankful that there have been no community transmissions to this end, and 0 deaths recorded in Namibia so far. I have indicated that the health of Namibians remains our greatest priority. Our prompt action to close all points of entry and issue comprehensive instructions on the movement of people has therefore helped to contain the spread of disease. While we recognize that these extraordinary measures have caused great disruptions to our daily lives, they were necessary and therefore effective. I therefore urge all Namibians to continue to comply with the regulations. Although the number of cases has remained static for 25 days, this does not mean that the current measures must be lifted completely and suddenly. Today, the Cabinet met to review the status of COVID-19 in Namibia and deliberated on how to reopen the economy without reversing the gains made. The countrywide lockdown will lapse at midnight on Monday, the 4th of May, 2020. Based on our experience, available data, engaging our level of national preparedness, there is merit to relax some of the restrictions. As we prepare to gradually reopen social and economic activities, a balance must be found between protecting life, mental health, and livelihoods. The state of emergency declared on 17 March 2020 will remain in force for a period of 6 months and may be extended subject to the changing country situation. In conformity with global guidelines on the national response to COVID-19, Namibia has adopted 4 stages of restrictions. Stage 1 is the current situation of the countrywide lockdown for a period of 38 days from 28th March until midnight 4th of May 2020. Stage 2 will be a gradual reopening under strict precautions from 5th of May 2020 to 2nd of June 2020. Stage 3 will see more moderate precautions and could come into effect from the 2nd of June 2020 to 30th of June 2020. The final stage 4 from 30 June 2020 will introduce a new normal and could last until the end of the state of emergency. Each stage of restriction will have an average observance period of 2 incubation periods, which is 28 days. With the end of stage 1 at midnight on the 4th of May 2020, I wish to announce that stage 2 will come into force for 28 days from 5th of May 2020 to 1st of June 2020. During stage 2, the following measures will apply to all Namibians. 1, all members of the public are required to wear face masks in public spaces. Government will assist vulnerable persons to acquire the mask. 2, people will be permitted to travel domestically between regions and within towns and cities without restriction. 3, our borders will remain closed for non-Namibians, but returning Namibians will be permitted to re-enter the country subject to screening at points of entry and supervised quarantine for 14 days. Businesses and productive activities, unless prohibited, will be permitted to reopen, subject to responsible personal and organizational contact, and in compliance with the prescribed health and hygiene guidelines. 5, in addition to fulfilling the established protocols, the following businesses will be allowed to resume, subject to specified conditions. Shopping malls and retail outlets, restaurants to continue operating on a take-away basis as before. Buying and selling of alcohol is prohibited. I got all kinds of SMSs, people asking me, please, President, just open it just for 4 hours. Well, wait still for more hours. Alcohol has been a problem in this country. We may use this crisis to address that problem of alcoholism in this country. So I'm not saying we're not going to allow you to drink, but the way we are drinking, and I got reports that families are doing very well, crime has gone down because of that prohibition of alcohol. So you may join me for all of us to decide that we must limit usage of alcohol in this country. Cabana traders may only operate for takeaway and private consumption. Beauty, hairdressers, and barbers, subject to proper personal protective equipment, with proper personal protective equipment. Laundromats and tailors, subject to proper personal protective equipment, with proper protective equipment. The following activities are deemed to be high risk under the circumstances and will not be permitted to resume activity during stage 2. And these are theaters and cinemas, gyms and exercise centers, contact sports and sporting events, gambling houses and nightclubs, liquor outlets, bars and shebeens, entertainment events and concerts, seminars, conferences, workshops, and summits. By buying and selling of alcohol remains prohibited throughout the country. The progression from one state to another will be informed by developments on the cases and the details of stages as they may change. As such, before we move into a subsequent stage, review will be undertaken to enable government to agree on what activities will be allowed. Just to give you information, what's going to come on page 3 and page 4, in terms of timelines, are indicative and intended to assist with business planning. The actual duration of each stage may be reduced or extended, subject to monitoring reports and the changing situation in the country. The tentative activities for stage 3 and 4 are available in a document here around. In conclusion, these were immensely difficult few weeks for all of us. These extraordinary measures have disrupted our lives. The fight against COVID-19 will not be a sprint. It will be a marathon that will demand our collective endurance. We must therefore summon the courage to wage an enduring battle and prevail against this invisible enemy. I commend the perseverance of Namibians from all walks of life and thank you for your cooperation. I thank you. We will allow experts, starting with maybe the health minister, and the prime minister, health minister, and eventually the minister of finance. If need be, all those information ministries and Ministry of Justice, I must also thank them during these days. They have been available, ministers have been available, and we have been informed properly, briefed every day. For that, I would like to thank the ministers, deputy ministers, and you, the NBC people. With that, I would like to end here and see whether the Minister of Health and Minister of Finance and others, like the Minister of Information and Minister of Justice, and my high table may also say something. So thank you very much. The floor is now open. Minister, anything to add?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade President, for the statement and for giving me the floor. I have been informed that there will be a longer session today between 7 and 8 at NBC, in which we will be available to ask to answer and expound more on the issue which the Comrade President have just mentioned. So I would think that maybe during that occasion we'll be able to give more information if there will be more questions. Thank you, Comrade President.
Very good, very good. So since we have this continuing, very informative, very transparent way of doing things, maybe you'll wait for that. But Minister of Finance, anything? Didn't we have money? People want money.
Comrade President, I believe you have covered everything. Maybe at this moment I could just give a quick update on the emergency income grant, because that's what people are inundating us with questions with regard to the emergency income grant. To date, we have paid out almost 500,000 people. So the 500,000 people have received their money. It's about 498 point something that have received their wallets. So we are still in the process of verifying those that need to be paid. The process is closing today, the application process, because it has been open for about 2 weeks now. So today was the last day, but it doesn't mean that the payment process is going to stop today. There are those that need to be validated, especially those who have used, more people having used one phone, or those who have one ID has been used in many, many applications, and there we are suspecting some fraud. Our message to the public is that they will receive SMSs from us as to what is going to be done next. If they have to be verified, we will tell them when they should go to their councillors and be verified. They should not go to their councillors and inundate their councillor's office if they have not received a message from us. So in the next few days or so, many of them, those who are still waiting, are going to receive SMSs. and the SMSs will inform them as to when they should visit their councillors for verification. So that's the appeal we are making. So they must not go to their councillors yet until they have received an SMS from us. Let me stop there and maybe see if there are questions from the journalist.
Yes?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone, media and Your Excellency and the High Table. Your Excellency, I do want to just clarify two important aspects. The one pertains to the state of emergency. I think there's been a lot of discussion on social media about whether or not the state of emergency runs concurrently with the lockdown. I take this opportunity to clarify that the state of emergency is the overall rubric or blanket that covers the conditions or the situation in which we find ourselves. That's the first thing. The lockdown was just one measure. What is going to happen going forward is that the decision that the President took to declare a state of emergency on the 17th of March 2020 and the subsequent approval on the 18th of March 2020 by the National Assembly to make the state of emergency effective for a period of 6 months remains in place. So the state of emergency remains in place. What will happen now with the regulations is that on the 4th of May at midnight, these regulations that have been governing and guiding our behavior as a society will lapse. And in that same moment, on the 5th of May, we will have new regulations governing the restrictions that have just been announced by His Excellency. So it's important that people understand that the legal framework will continue to operate, but it will be something slightly newer than what we have at the moment. So please remember that the state of emergency remains in effect until 22nd September 2020, I believe. That would be the 6-month period. So it's not a new 6 month that starts today. It is a 6 month that starts on the 23rd of March that will continue to operate until the 22nd of September 2020. And then I also want to indicate that there will be a change in 2 documents in terms of the legal framework that is governing us. It will be the main regulations and it will be the directives that are associated with the regulations. The regulations provide the broad legal framework and the broad policy statements of government. And the directives provides modalities and details of how the various sectors and industries will be managed. So it's important for people to understand that. And the regulations that are currently in place, including the suspension proclamation that suspended certain provisions and various laws, will also lapse on the 4th of May. But new proclamation for suspension, if we're going to continue with suspending certain provisions of various laws, will also then kick in. So it's important for people to understand that there will be a new legal regime that will govern the next stage of the state of emergency. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Minister of Information. Anything to inform us?
Thank you very much, Comrade President. Just to repeat that everyone is now listening live, members of the media are listening, and the public. So what has been communicated by His Excellency the President is what has been decided by government. Any other news that would be circulating, apart from this one, is not an authentic information. And now regulations are in place. I just want to repeat, for those that are spreading fake news, the law is going to catch up with them. So don't say you were not forewarned. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister, how about the foreign students and foreign Namibians in foreign countries?
Since the outbreak of the COVID-19, Namibians who were found abroad have been reporting themselves to our missions all over the world. Some of them, they got stranded due to the cancellation of international flights. And that is what we are dealing with now. However, as we have been saying from the beginning, we are encouraging Namibians, wherever they are, to remain put, particularly that it's very difficult to repatriate them when you find 1, 2, or 3 in one country. However, we have a good number of Namibians who are in South Africa. The majority of them are students. Some have completed their studies. There are also some medical personnel who are required back home. Now, we are in the process to facilitate their coming home during this time. Of course, there are also Namibian citizens who can afford their own transportation. That's why yesterday, over 30 Namibians came from South Africa, and what we did as a government, we just facilitate to apply for their permission to travel. So we are working on that together with the Ministry of Higher Education when it comes to the students. I might also inform you that as a Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, we will continue to monitor the situation internationally, because that is what is going to inform us, particularly when we come to make a decision as to when we have to close, to open our international border. At the same time, we will keep mobilizing support that we will require during this time, as well as the post-COVID-19. So that is what I can say. Como president, but the main point is to encourage Namibians to remain where they are, and only in those cases where it's become quite necessary and economic that will be able to bring them home. Thank you, Como President.
Thank you. Churches wrote me letters. It's on? Churches wrote me letters. Some I called back, those I knew. But they are also trying to provide service, prayers, but also some say they could also be helped. Now, some letters I only saw after I came from the cabinet. So I'll give it to the Prime Minister to go and look at what they are saying. But the dilemma we have is we're a secular state. There are many churches in this country. So Council of Churches must help us maybe to screen the churches and help us to recommend, because there are too many of them, we cannot open the floodgates. So those who called me and those who sent me letters and are calling me here, that's a problem. We are with the churches, we are praying, all of us, but it's very difficult just to open up and say churches must continue or they must be helped with financial assistance and so on, as they are asking some of them. But we're together in this one, all of us. Are we? You got the message? Okay? No questions? Huh? Yes, okay.
We just got a query the public is asking. Maybe we need to clarify this, that the schools, the learners are not yet going to school. So they are going to continue with the alternative learning modes. The same with the public gatherings, we are not yet there. So the status quo remains. The weddings, the funerals, the status quo remains maximum number of 10 people attending. Thank you.
I think we should end this before I get all kinds of requests. Barbers are asking how can they be assisted.